You clicked on this video because you're probably a gamer like me, and that means you will probably get frustrated over all of this, just like me. One of my favorite things about video games is the lore, the world, the story that drives its characters. This is especially the case if it's a multiplayer experience where, on paper, all of that is secondary to the gameplay. That's why I always craved supplemental material, either in the form of comics or animated shorts that flesh out both the characters and the world. There's also been generally great success in that lately in the form of TV adaptations. But there are two games out there that missed out on their chance. Two disappointing cases of pure gold. Never being able to live up to their full potential. Overwatch was a massive hit, and the 2016 hype around it was legendary. That's partly due to its cinematics. Breathtaking Pixar-level quality visuals, sharing small glimpses into its universe. In the first year alone, Blizzard released 7 animated shorts. Everyone loved these, and with every single release, there would always be hunger for more. We thought about how amazing it would be to see a full-on series or maybe a movie set in the Overwatch world, and having that be tied to new in-game updates? That would have just done so much for the community. But over time, as the game itself was faltering, both externally and internally, these animations became less frequent. And so, despite fans wanting these stories to one day be even more fleshed out, the hope for that was dying. That was until early 2020, when after years of rumors and speculation, something solid was put out. Over on LinkedIn, Nick Van Dyke, the co-president of Activision Blizzard, posted that alongside Diablo, he developed and sold an animated series based on Blizzard's Overwatch franchise. Holy f***, it's happening. I myself at this point haven't touched the game in a long time, but this piece of news right here excited me so much. We were back. We were so back. Were being the key word there. Behind the scenes, stuff was getting messy. The year prior, Blizzard's CFO Spencer Newman left the company to become CFO for Netflix, and his departure was not under the best of terms. You see, Newman had a fixed-term agreement with Blizzard, but his contract was terminated for violating his legal obligations to the company. During his second year of a 3-year contract, he was lured away to the streaming site, breaking the no-shop clause in his contract that forbid him from seeking work elsewhere while he was still at his current position. And on top of that, allegedly, Newman himself had a hand in managing deals between the two companies, and it was during these interactions that Netflix poached him and offered him legal protections if he were to breach his contract. As a result of all of this, Blizzard launched a lawsuit against Netflix in late 2020. This would not be the first time that Netflix would be accused of this, as they've gotten sued twice before by Viacom and Fox for doing the exact same thing. The move was also an aggressive one, considering that Netflix was trying to enter the gaming market, thus making them a competitor to Blizzard. Of course, this resulted in the two companies severing all ties, and that's led us to the unfortunate reality we live in now. According to Jason Schreier's book, Play Nice, which details the turbulent inner workings of Blizzard, Netflix shows for StarCraft, Diablo, and Overwatch were already in development, but like I just said, the two companies cut each other off as a result of the poaching and the lawsuit. There aren't any solid details on just how far into development the shows were, or if anything was really made for them yet, but nonetheless, it's depressing to think about what has been lost. At the time, this was yet another blow for Overwatch. So much lore that could have been tapped into. Gone. Just like that. The game itself would also later miss out on that aspect again due to the cancellation of its PvE mode. A mode that fans were really looking forward to for this exact reason. Imagine if this deal could have gone through. Imagine if it had gone through even earlier. The absolute best case scenario would have been to make a deal for an animated series that released at the height of Overwatch's popularity, years before they actually tried to make it happen. Where would Overwatch as a brand be if this were to have occurred? Where would the game be? Maybe it and its long-desired PvE mode would have ended up not just surviving, but consistently thriving throughout the years. As upsetting as this cancellation may be, at least it was cut off really early. Unlike... By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please do consider subscribing. It really does help out a lot. Thanks. It's the early 2010s, and over at Valve headquarters, something special was being put together. A story script of one of Valve's most iconic games. But this was no ordinary script. It wasn't for an animated short or for an update teaser, no. This was for something more, and as it drummed up internal support, it became an official project. A Team Fortress 2 feature-length screenplay. Coincidentally, sometime in 2012, Adult Swim reached out to Valve to see if they would be interested in developing a TV show for the video game. Something akin to the Meet the Team series, a set of short videos that introduce each of the mercenaries. These are heavily praised as they combine humor, action, and most of all, personality for each and every one of the characters.
I'm a black Scottish Cyclops. They got more than they got the likes of me.
Oh, don't be such a baby. Lips grow back? No, they don't.
Grass grows, birds fly, sun shines, and brother, I hurt people.
Team Fortress 2 was already incredibly unique due to how memorable its roster was, and these shorts only enhanced that feeling. There really wasn't anything else like this at the time, and they're still fondly looked back on. I even, while writing this part of my script, got sidetracked because I ended up rewatching all of them. If you haven't ever seen these, or if it's been a while, I highly recommend you check them out. It'll make the rest of this story hurt just a bit more. But anyway, you can understand how this was so appealing for Adult Swim. The game released in 2007, and 5 years later, it's still going very strong. They saw the potential here and made a deal with Valve. A 12-episode animated run, developed within Valve's own in-house 3D animation software, Source Filmmaker. Each episode would also get a 15-minute block on the network. But to start, they needed to make a pilot by mid-2013. It's a really good thing that Valve just so happened to have that screenplay around. It was during this time that the relationship between the two companies publicly sprouted. In early November of 2012, a new episode of Robot Chicken aired on Adult Swim that featured the recurring nerd character joining the TF2 roster.
Medic! Medic! You've been shot! Let me heal you! Well, not shot, but I really might have twisted my ankle.
But this was just a parody, a one-off gag. It wasn't until late May of the following year that Valve would be able to present the game themselves. This official piece of news was released on the Team Fortress website. TF2 commercial on this Sunday's premiere of Venture Brothers. Alongside this announcement is a very interesting sentence considering what we know that fans back then didn't. People can now be famous for as long as they want. We decided to start small with a 15-second commercial. This is obviously hinting at the fact that there is a TV series in the works, and that this crossover promo is a soft launch for TF2 on network television. And then when the commercial aired, fans were excited, and they'd also be quick to spot the new cosmetics inspired by the Venture Brothers. Not long after this, to promote the release of the Meet the Pyro video, the two companies would once again publicly team up. They also encouraged players to sign up for a newsletter, incentivizing them with a free Robot Chicken hat. Additionally, it also teased something else. If you sign up, you'll be the first to know when we have more new stuff coming down the old Steam pipe hole. Because this ain't the last you'll hear from Adult Swim and Valve. Stay tuned. So, mid-2013 comes around, Adult Swim was ready to check out what Valve had put together, and nothing. It wasn't done. Okay, quality work takes time, so the deadline got extended, and extended, and extended. You see, Valve is notorious for setting a release date and then not actually releasing the thing on that date. And the communication regarding these delays is largely non-existent. It has happened so often that the term Valve time was coined, as it did seem that Valve ran on its own schedule, and unfortunately, this instance was no different. It wasn't until either late 2013 or early 2014 that Valve submitted something to Adult Swim. A 20-minute unfinished pilot with temporary voice acting and incomplete animations. A reminder that Adult Swim offered up a 15-minute block of airtime, and to account for commercials, the pilot itself would have had to have been 11 minutes long. What they submitted was unacceptable for Adult Swim, and they requested that Valve trim the pilot down, but Valve refused. Adult Swim asked over and over again, and Valve would just not budge. Not only did they not want to shorten it, but they also even didn't want any commercial breaks at all. Valve genuinely thought that they had the upper bargaining hand here because it was Adult Swim that approached them. They wanted a TF2 series, so they had to capitulate to Valve's demands. The two companies would then have a big back and forth that went on for months. Eventually, Valve would cut the episode short, but only down to about 15 minutes. Again, not what Adult Swim wanted, and they eventually just couldn't take it anymore. If it was this difficult to get even a pilot episode completed, imagine how the production of a whole entire series would go. As a result, in early 2014, Adult Swim ended up scrapping the entire project. And that was that. The deal had fallen through and nothing really came out of it, at least on the TV side of things. Despite the delays and, quite frankly, stubbornness, Valve was in fact very interested in this idea, as they even had a team of writers working on both the initial episodes and ones that were further away. Valve just unfortunately couldn't play ball if it wasn't on their terms. But they persisted with this idea and transformed the pilot into the animated short Expiration Date. Released seemingly out of nowhere in June of 2014 to promote the Love and War update, this animation has become incredibly iconic, as it had everything that TF2 fans loved about the series and the characters.
This is a bucket.
Dear God.
There's more.
No.
No, I am great with girls. Both got buckets of chicken. You want to do it?
Okay.
Scout, you...
Are you having a problem?
So we're fine, as long as nobody teleports any bread.
Question.
What's your question, soldier?
I teleported bread.
What?
Unfortunately, neither the original script or show Bible was ever released or leaked, so the finer details of what was cut isn't clear, but there have been a few hints over the years. The 2017 vinyl for the game's soundtrack featured a bunch of black and white photographs of the mercenaries. One picture in particular has Scout holding a strawberry. A few days before the animated short and the Love and War update, some textures from it were leaked, and that included one called strawberries.vtf. These two images, alongside two posts from a prominent SFM animator that has seen an early cut of the short, all indicate that there was some sort of deleted scene revolving around the Heavy and strawberries. There's also these sets of images from the vinyl that hint at another deleted scene of Scout eating Heavy's sandwich that would have seemed to have taken place at the start of the video. We've also got some alternative and unused scenes from the 2018 animation reel of Matthew Russell, one of the animators for the project. And the last thing we could solidly attach to the pilot is that Scout's voice actor, Nathan Vetterline, and Miss Pauling's voice actor, Ashley Birch, helped write the script for the pilot. Even though nothing else has really been discovered since all of this, it is speculated that certain parts of the original series scripts were used for the comics. Which, by the way, was another victim of Valve time, as it took 7 years since the 6th installment of that story to conclude in the 7th issue. You probably haven't read the comics, but that wait was excruciating. Many, such as myself, had given up hope that it would ever be released, especially because it was confirmed at one point that no one was working on it. And I'm glad it was finally finished, but a part of me still longs for what could have been. If this story here had been told on TV. I loved the Love and War update, and I have very fond memories of that era, notably of watching Expiration Date for the first time. I of course didn't realize it, but that was a glimpse of something really special. And looking back at it all these years later in a different lens, I can't help but mourn the potential that was lost. Source Filmmaker, even in the early 2010s, was an old and buggy animation system that probably made it more difficult for the team to deliver on Adult Swim's deadlines. The Expiration Date animation team also originally started with 7 people, and that might have been the case for the pilot as well, since that work got carried over into this new project. So maybe if they had used different software, maybe if they had more people, maybe if Valve was more cooperative, maybe, just maybe, if stuff went a little bit different, I could have had the opportunity to talk about the Adult Swim show that set a new standard for adult animation, that revitalized an already culturally popular game with regular updates tied to the new seasons of its show, that encouraged Valve to massively overhaul Source Filmmaker to make it much more accessible for the common person. Much more so than the SFM animation boom we received in our reality. Fun Lias fact, inspired by so many great fan-made videos, I actually toyed around with the program myself for a bit, but dropped it because I was having difficulties with it. And its competition was a lot more intuitive and easy to use. I would have loved to make something for this franchise, especially when the company was recognizing those creations that were being put out there with its yearly awards, but I just unfortunately dropped that idea. I know that I'm not alone when I say that I grew up with this game and these characters, and I just really wish that this project could have worked out. I'm sure there's a game out there that you love and cherish, that you wish would get a respected adaptation. It's no easy task to make that happen, and that's why we have to celebrate the good works we have, so that there's a push for more. As fans and gamers, it can often feel like we are as much a part of the world and story as the characters themselves. That's really cemented in this case for TF2, as seen here in the final pages of the comic's final chapter, which unfortunately is likely to be the last bit of lore we get from this universe, at least for now. Spoiler alert if you want to go and read all of it, which I highly recommend. And if that's the case, thank you so much for watching. Now for everyone else still here, it ends with a gathering at Scout's home for a Christmas celebration. After the whole crew arrives, the doorbell rings and the perspective changes to first person.
Oh, hey, it's you! Get in here, you big dummy! Nah, we're just starting. I even saved you a seat. You know, I'm real glad you could make it. We've been through a lot, you and us. And well, it's good to know you stuck around after everything we've been through. All right, come on. Let's eat before this gets embarrassing. Miss Pauling bought us a turkey. But just remember, we couldn't have done any of this without you.
Thanks for watching.